is because of great importance right now to understand our immune system, probably more important than ever. And I'm sure everyone now can appreciate our immune system is the best protection against external threats. And that is why I want to talk to you today about your immune system as well as about 4-Life transfer factor. So we're going to talk in 3 different parts. We're going to talk about what is your immune system. So we're going to learn about boosting your immune system, whether blindly or targeted, is that the approach, and how to educate your immune system during these really challenging times. We're also going to learn about 4-Life transfer factor. How does transfer factor plus compare to other transfer factor products in your markets? And how does transfer factor work for you? Why 4-Life transfer factor? And what is the latest science? And I'm talking about the latest science. You guys are going to see some data that not anybody has seen just yet. And so I'm excited to share some of that new data with you. So the first part, the immune system. In this part, you'll learn about the immune system, where it's located in your body, the cells and processes that are involved, and how it relates to your overall health. We will conclude this session with simple take-home points that are easy to remember and share with others as you better understand what happens inside your body when you take 4-Life transfer factor products. Does that sound good? All right. So, as a preview, the immune system is located all throughout our body and it has many different cell types involved. It takes care of our body by defending against health threats, and it can immediately respond to these threats and learn from past threats. And that's a really important key. It also helps our body recognize which is part of you and which is foreign. And that part is essential in protecting our bodies from harmful threats. Excuse me. So the immune system has 2 main functions: keep harmful things out and get rid of anything that gets in. And actually performing these functions are much more complicated, but they are a fundamental purpose of why we have an immune system. So where is your immune system? Well, the immune system is everywhere in your body. In some of these locations, the immune cells are produced. In others, they're matured. And in others, they're part of our circulatory system. So we have immune cells, we have immune systems in our tonsils. Our tonsils, remember, are the 2 oval masses in the back of our throat. We have these things called adenoids. They're glands located in the back of our nasal passages. We also have lymph nodes, which are small little organs, just shaped like little beans, are located all over our body, and they allow us to connect our lymphatic vessels, which are a network of channels all over our body that carry lymphocytes. These are the lymphocytes, the white blood cells, to the lymphoid organs, as well as in the bloodstream. We also have our thymus, which is located behind our breastbone, and that's where we have a special set of immune cells called T cells, and that's where they mature. That's why they're called T for thymus. We have a spleen, which is a fist-sized organ located on the on the left side of your belly. We have Peyer's patches, which are lymphatic tissues in our small intestines. We'll learn a little bit about that here in a second. We have a bowel and an appendix. These are organs that play a central role in defending the body against pathogens. And they house more than half of the adaptive immune cells and help maintain healthy gut flora. And of course, we have our bone marrow, and this is a soft, fatty tissue found inside of our bones where our immune cells are made. So the Peyer's patch is really just kind of a fancy name for a part of our immune system that's in our gut. Now, we all know the majority of our immune system resides in our gut. It's about 70 to 80% of all of our immune cells. Now, gut immune cells actually monitor this kind of boundary, which is potentially dangerous source of infections, right? Anytime we take something in through food, that's a potential source of an infection. And so we have a lot of immune cells in our gut to help protect us from those health threats. Now, healthy immune cells, intact gut lining, and healthy microflora, the bacteria in our gut, are all important for good gut immunity. Now let's turn and talk about our immune cells. There are 8 major types of cells in our immune system. We'll discuss them in groups as well as individually, so you can get a sense of what each benefit provides for you. There are two main types of tasks that the immune system performs in your body. The first one is one that you're most familiar with, and that is that it blocks and gets rid of bacteria and viruses that can make you sick. Now, toxins are kind of a unique category. An attack doesn't always come from bacteria or viruses. In fact, many toxins, such as foreign chemicals in our food, in our environment, that you might eat or breathe in, those are neutralized by your liver, making them harmless. However, some toxins are very, very large and require our immune system to also intervene. The second major task for our immune system is it works to identify and destroy our own cells when those cells have been compromised by a virus or some sort of inherent inborn error that causes the cells to function no longer able to carry out what functions it has. Now, the immune system is smart enough to recognize both of these different types. So the two types of immune system functions. One is called the innate immunity, and that's kind of like a standing army. There are cells that are always on alert, always looking out for any health threat. We also have an adaptive immune system, which is kind of like a trained special forces prepared for one specific mission. Now, once you are exposed to a specific invader or health threat, the adaptive immune system makes sure that you won't get sick from that specific organism again. And so think about those like vaccines, right? Vaccines work in the same manner. They provide the first exposure to a weakened version of a bacteria or a virus so that you can train your adaptive system and you don't ever face the full onslaught of the disease once you've been vaccinated. Now, the innate immunity involves many different types of cells. These include cells with more than one nucleus, so neutrophil, eosinophil, and basophils, plus monocytes and macrophages, which actually only have one nucleus, as well as natural killer cells. In addition to innate immunity includes that there are physical barriers such as our skin, our mucous membranes that are found in our nose, in our gut, in our trachea to help move things out of the lungs. So macrophages actually start out as monocytes, and once they become a macrophage, it performs the job of a cell eater. So think about like a Pac-Man, right? It's eating all these little things. This process where you're eating cells, damaged cells or health threats that are cells, that's called phagocytosis. Now, macrophages patrol an area of tissue that remove dead cells, cell debris, and sometimes microbes. Natural killer cells, or what we also call NK cells, are the communication between the innate and the adaptive immunity. They kill the threats by releasing cytokines, perforin or granzyme, or by inducing cell suicide. Very, very important cell type. When our cells are stressed or they have a defect, they express specific peptides on their cell membranes. Natural killer cells can recognize these signals and then destroy the stressed or defective cells. Natural killer cells are widespread all throughout our body. They communicate extensively with other immune cells to gauge the intensity of these health threats. The more active the surrounding cells are, the more active the natural killer cells can behave, depending on the particular health threat. However, just jumped ahead. Let me pause here for a second. So natural killer cells are widespread throughout our body. They communicate extensively with other immune cells to give a gauge of intensity of cytotoxic activity. However, this activity eliminates both the threat and the active cells when natural killer cells encounter active macrophages that are dead with an infected cell. Natural killer cells help destroy the infected cell and the activated macrophage. In summary, natural killer cells control infected cells, eliminate activated cells, and especially macrophages and T cells, and destroy our own defective cells. They live for about 2 weeks, and that's really important to think about because when we talk about educating our immune system, we have to realize that these natural killer cells only are around for about 2 weeks. So we constantly need to educate our immune system. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later when we talk about transfer factor. Now, the adaptive immunity is a delayed defense. It plays a role in the inflammatory response. So not all inflammation is bad. Some inflammation is actually pretty good. Adaptive immunity uses inflammation to help fight the initial health threat while preparing the immune system memory with something called antibodies. While this means it provides a delayed defense to the attack at hand, it carries out a much more important process for the future, ensuring that if you're ever exposed to that same particular health threat again, you won't have inflammation or any symptoms. And your body will eliminate the threat very quickly due to the preserved memory of how we beat that particular attack or that health threat. Now, T cells are one of the key cell types of the adaptive immune system. T cells get their name because they actually mature in our thymus gland. There are two main types. There's the helper T cells as well as cytotoxic T cells. Now, helper T cells recognize health threats. Cytotoxic T cells actually release these cytokines that help activate the cytotoxic T cells. The main job of T cells is to search for a specific threat and then alert the immune system when they find that threat. Now remember, unlike innate immunity that attacks invaders in a general way, T cells are tuned to a very specific invader. Now, T cells have the ability to recognize these threats, and they can do it by distinguishing self from non-self, by expressing specific proteins on the surface, as we shown here in the slide. So T cells are constantly searching for non-self foreigners. These surface proteins bind to the proteins that are found in self and non-self cells. When the T cells bind to a non-self or an antigen or a health threat, they can alert the rest of the immune system. Now, B cells get their name because they are produced, matured, and released from the bone marrow. They leave the bone marrow and go to the spleen where they finish maturing. Once a B cell recognizes a specific antigen, it differentiates it and produces antibodies. A B cell that produced an antibody is called a memory B cell, and it carries the immune memory of the antigens it's encountered. So we're learning, we're gaining the knowledge of these health threats that we've been exposed to in the past, and that's what creates these antibodies that helps protect us. Immunoglobulins are really what we're talking about. They're the antibodies. They are created by the B cells to fit to a specific antigen or a foreign object or also a health threat, like a key fits into a lock. So their sequence is the memory of that foreign object or that antigen, that health threat, and it takes time for that antibody to produce. So when you get a vaccine, usually it takes a few weeks for you to produce enough antibodies to be fully protected from whatever health threat that you're encountering. So when you get exposed to that same antigen, your B cells can act more quickly and efficiently because the antibodies are already made. They're ready and waiting for health threats. Now, in the case of mothers actually transfer antibodies to newborns via either the placenta or through breastfeeding. This immunity transfer is a fundamental principle of how 4-life transfer factor is, and we'll learn a little bit more about that in the next coming sections. So we talked about different cell types and the two major types of immune response, innate and adaptive. It's important to remember that the immune system is everywhere in your body and that both types of immunities actually work together. The cells communicate and help each other produce a proper immune response. So let's summarize. The immune system is everywhere in our body. The innate immunity involves many different cell types. It's your first line of defense with an immediate response. The innate and adaptive immunity actually work together in symphony. The immune system also keeps out harmful things and gets rid of anything that has actually come into contact with your body. The adaptive immune system involves T cells and B cells. They recognize current threats and remember for future threats. They offer a delayed response. Okay, so that's kind of a summary of the immune system. Is everybody good so far? Okay, well, let's all these different threats. We want to keep it active and balanced. Neither hypoactive, which is, again, overactive, or hypoactive, which is not active enough. And that's a good thing. In many cases, the immune system that overreacts is as harmful and as dangerous as one that actually stops working. So in general, an overactive immune system leads to many autoimmune disorders. Because of hyperactive immune responses, your body can't tell the difference between healthy and normal cells and invaders or overactive immune cells. So in essence, your immune system turns against you. Imagine an army that went chaotically overactive and turns against its own people. Kind of crazy, but that's what happens with an overactive immune system. Okay, so when it comes to educating your immune system, not only during this challenging pandemic, but really during any part of your life, a healthy lifestyle is key. Healthy lifestyle is key. As you learn that your immune system is a highly sophisticated network that are located throughout your body, organs, and cells, your immune health is everything about your body health. So let's talk about a few tips that can help us support our immune system. First tip, get adequate sleep. Research looking at sleep and physical health has been made clearly abundant that regular, high quality sleep is essential for proper immune functions. Now, studies show that just sleep alone can help the brain consolidate learning and memory. It can also strengthen our immune memory. Particularly, the interaction of the immune system and components during sleep reinforce the immune system's ability to recognize, to respond, and remember potential health threats. So for adults, expert recommends getting approximately 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. Second tip, minimize stress. Now, that easier said than done, but let's talk about that. In small amounts, actually, stress can be a good thing. It's what allows you to respond quickly to a dangerous situation. It helps you keep you productive in day-to-day life. But high levels of stress or stress that sticks around for a long time, that can be harmful. When you experience a stressful situation, the brain actually activates stress signaling pathways, which stimulate the release of hormones that regulate some of the immune functions. So chronic stress keeps these pathways turned on, and the hormone levels, such as cortisol, keeps them very, very high. When this happens, both the innate and adaptive immune responses can actually be suppressed, right? They're not functioning as well as they should, potentially interfering with your body's ability to defend itself from harm, right? And so when we get stressed, oftentimes we get more sick. For this reason, finding ways to incorporate stress-reducing activities such as meditation, mindfulness, putting these into your daily life is important for also supporting your immune system. Tip 3, exercise regularly. Moderate to vigorous intensity exercise has been shown to benefit the immune system by improving the activity of certain immune cells, such as macrophages, stimulating the circulation of other cells, such as cytokines, natural killer cells, T cells, and B cells. Now, with regular exercise, these changes accumulate over time and help strengthen our immune system. The research also shows that habitual exercise may delay the onset of something called immunosenescence. And that's just the natural decline of our immune function that occurs when we age. According to the World Health Organization, adults should aim for 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise weekly, or about 30 minutes for 5 days per week. They also recommend muscle strengthening exercises or activities 2 days per week. Tip number 4, eat a diet high in fruits and vegetables. I can't stress that enough. Good nutrition is required for all cells to function properly. And this includes cells within your immune system, some of the ones that we just talked about. A balanced diet provides micronutrients and dietary components found in fruits and vegetables, and they also have specific roles in the development and maintenance of an effective immune system. So, for example, zinc regulates cell division. It's essential for a successful immune response. That's why we have it in some of our products. Additionally, the amino acid glutamine provides an energy source for immune cells and serves as a precursor to DNA synthesis, which is important for these rapidly dividing cells. Now, according to the USDA's dietary guidelines, adults should be eating 2.5 cups of vegetables and 2 cups of fruit every day. Tip number 5, take immune boosting supplements. The best way to load up on nutrients, of course, is through food. And most food is created by Mother Nature, and they contain a variety of nutrients that are balanced and readily absorbed in our bodies. But because it's not always easy to maintain a perfect diet, right? We all know that. Finding ways to fill in the gaps is important. That's where supplements come in, right? Dietary supplements. They help supplement our diet. Finding ways, that's where they provide an alternative way to get to nutrients that you might be lacking. So to maintain immune health, reach for the foods and or supplements that contain nutrients such as glutamine, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D, selenium, as well as iron. These nutrients have been identified for critical growth and function of immune cells. Now, as you work to incorporate these strategies into your daily routine, keep in mind that they are just guidelines meant to help you go along your journey towards better health. As such, pay close attention to how each practice makes you feel and then adapt to meet your specific health needs. All right, so now let's turn to the second part of our discussion today. What is 4-Life Transfer Factor? In this part, we'll learn that 4-Life Transfer Factor is comprised of small peptides and proteins that are derived from cow colostrum and egg yolk. It's made by the immune system for the immune system. We'll also learn that 4-Life has patented technologies to extract transfer factor specifically out of cow colostrum as well as chicken egg yolk. We'll also learn that 4-Life utilizes state-of-the-art technologies to help understand and characterize transfer factors. So the research of transfer factor actually went back to the 1940s when Dr. Sherwood Lawrence looked at white blood cells from an illness survivor. He noticed that by transferring the white blood cells, these are actually dialyzed white blood cells, from a survivor to a naive donor, he could show a positive response to tuberculin, which is also known as TB, or it's the precursor of tuberculosis. If your body has been exposed to TB, this little spot will appear swollen and red within a couple of days. And Dr. Lawrence used a similar test to show this transfer of immunity. He repeated this test another time a few years later and got the same results. At this point, he knew he was onto something pretty interesting. He called this finding transfer factor. He didn't know at that time that this was peptides and proteins. All he knew is some sort of factor that he could transfer from one person to another. He could transfer that immunity. And so ever since then, hundreds of scientists have studied transfer factor and published thousands of research papers about it. So let's first describe the sources of 4-Life Transfer Factor. 4-Life Transfer Factor consists of small peptides and proteins that are derived from cow colostrum and chicken egg yolk. Now, colostrum is the first milk produced by a mother during the late stage of pregnancy and the first few days following the delivery of the newborn. It's very yellowish in color, not white like regular milk, and it's often considered one of the most potent natural immune boosters in all of science. In the case of 4-Life products, the colostrum comes from cows. Cows actually produce much more colostrum than the calves can consume. Thus, the remaining colostrum can be used for human consumption. Right? We're not taking colostrum away from the calves. There's plenty of colostrum there. We can just take the extra and use it to make wonderful 4-Life supplements. Now, egg yolk is a nutrient-rich portion of the egg with a primary function to supply food for the development of embryo. In 4-Life products, the egg yolks come from chickens. Now, let's look at how and why 4-Life transfer factors or transfer factors are made. So the ability of mothers to transfer immune knowledge to their offspring was documented in mammals and birds well over 100 years ago, over a century. For mammals, this transfer process takes place through either the placenta prior to birth or through colostrum during lactation immediately after birth. In birds and reptiles and fish, this knowledge is mainly transferred from the mother to the offspring via the egg. This transfer process of immune knowledge is important to the offspring survival because its immune system in the very early stages of life is very immature, it's very naive because it hasn't been exposed to a lot of the environmental health threats. We'll learn a little bit later that a mother actually gives some of that knowledge on to the offsprings. So let's take a second and look about the composition, the components of 4-Life transfer factor from the two different sources. So bovine colostrum is a complex mixture of fats, carbohydrates, proteins, growth factors, enzymes, enzyme inhibitors, nucleotides, nucleosides, cytokines, fats, vitamins, and minerals. wonderful, rich composition of very immune benefiting ingredients. Now, the composition of this substance varies over time as colostrum actually transitions into milk. And so in the next few slides, we'll look at how we can monitor those changes to ensure peak production of transfer factor and their impact on immune functions. Now, egg yolks are made up about a third of the weight of an egg, and it provides a rich source of macronutrients like fat, carbohydrates, and proteins, and it also gives substance to the chick embryo. It also, like colostrum, functions as a plentiful source of vitamins and minerals. So 4Life scientists take the knowledge of these components and utilize advanced testing methods to monitor specific components that pertain to the mother's transfer of immune knowledge to her offspring. Now, the majority of these immune benefiting components are called immunoglobulins, right? Remember we talked about that with the B cells. And these are Y-shaped proteins used by the immune system to neutralize varying environmental threats. One such immunoglobulin is IgG. This makes up about 80% of the total proteins in bovine colostrum. For eggs, that immunoglobulin is called IgY. That's included in the chicken egg yolk. Now, we can observe the transfer of this immune knowledge from the mother to the offspring by following IgG or IgY levels in the mother just prior to birth and then in the colostrum or in the egg yolks. This information allows us to optimize the quality and production of transfer factors coming from milk dairies as well as poultry farms. Newborn calves, remember, only need about 75% of the colostrum produced, so leaving the remainder of that amount to create 4Life products, 4Life transfer factor. Colostrum is collected within the first 12 to 16 hours post-birth to ensure a fresh, rich source of transfer factor. So, what are transfer factors? As I mentioned earlier, transfer factors are small peptides and proteins that educate an immature immune system of the newborn to recognize, to respond to, and to remember health threats. By comparison, they are smaller in size and abundance than these immunoglobulins that we talked about, and thus they require special filtration procedures to be extracted from colostrum. This process to obtain 4Life transfer factor involves several crucial steps: defatting the colostrum, pasteurization, and concentration through these very, very fine filters that utilize processes called ultrafiltration and nanofiltration. Now, 4Life has several patents for these filtration methods to ensure that they are proprietary and exclusive to 4Life research. The procedure for concentrating 4Life transfer factors from chicken egg is different than from cow colostrum. Transfer factors are extracted through something we call phase separation, which is the mechanical separation of the egg yolk from the white due to differences in liquid thickness. This allows transfer factors to be collected along with several other immune supporting substances. Now let's switch gears and discuss how 4Life characterizes transfer factors to ensure customers get the most bioactive forms of these immune benefiting powerhouses. 4Life transfer factor science is the exploration of the characterization and activity of transfer factors. Transfer factors are characterized in 3 different ways to give us useful data about their composition, their size, and their identity. First, amino acid analysis investigates the building blocks that make up 4Life transfer factor. Second, size exclusion chromatography determines the size and or the molecular weight of transfer factors. And third, proteomics, or the study of proteins, helps us better identify transfer factors themselves. It helps us understand and learn their sequence. Together, this information ensures that 4Life transfer factor products are of the highest quality. So, amino acid analysis determines the composition of the peptide and protein samples. The first step in amino acid analysis involves actually breaking apart specific peptide and protein bonds to release these amino acids. So remember, amino acids are kind of the building blocks. The liberated amino acids are then separated out, detected, and quantified. So this analysis gives 4Life scientists insights into the amino acid composition of transfer factor. And as you can see from the graph, Transfer factors derived from cow colostrum and chicken egg yolks are rich in amino acids. Interestingly, 9 of these amino acids are ones that the human body can't make on its own. They're called essential amino acids, and they must be acquired through your diet. Now, while amino acid is useful in determining the composition of transfer factor, right, these building blocks, it does not really tell us a lot about the molecular weight or the size of these bioactive peptides and proteins. So for life, scientists use size exclusion chromatography, also known as SEC, to monitor these processes. In this method, biomolecules in complex solutions, right? Remember the complex solutions of bovine colostrum. In these complex solutions, they're separated and analyzed by their size or their molecular weight. This allows for life to ensure that ultrafactor and nanofactor are made up of transfer factor peptides and proteins that are less than 10 kilodalton and 5 kilodalton respectively. So why does transfer factor size really matter? Well, we know that the immune supporting peptides and proteins are within a specific molecular weight range of around 10 kilodaltons or less. So 10 kilodaltons, that's just a unit to talk about the size of these molecules. And it's a very specific range where we get these transfer factors. And this technology allows us to follow and detect and make sure that we're seeing transfer factor in that specific range. So colostrum and egg yolk contains many proteins, of course, of varying significance, including the immunoglobulins that we talked about, the IgG, the IgY, which are these large molecules with molecular weights greater than 20 kilodaltons. It also includes transfer factor proteins, which are very, very small molecules with molecular weights less than 10 kilodaltons. So with the colostrum sample on the upper graph, you can see sharp and overlapping peaks on the left side that would indicate the major components are immunoglobulins, or the larger molecules. With the filtered colostrum on the lower graph, there are multiple peaks on the right side that are thought to be transfer factor peptides and proteins. These transfer factors have gone through that ultrafiltration process or that filtration process that we saw earlier. Now, size exclusion chromatography can be a useful quality control tool to ensure the preservation of for-life transfer factor as it goes through the special filtration process, or to evaluate the preservation and consistency of for-life transfer factor in every batch. Another way to study transfer factors is through proteomics. This area of research has exploded over the last decade with the evolution of liquid chromatography, mass spectrometry instrumentation. So similar to size exclusion chromatography, this methodology utilizes liquid chromatography to separate many different components of the highly complex samples of colostrum or egg. And this is followed by identification by mass spectrometry. Now, this identification step is kind of like taking a biomolecular fingerprint of each protein and peptide that's contained within the sample. Now, that peptide fingerprint can be then entered into a large database to help identify some of these known peptides and proteins. Now, these modern approaches allow for the investigation of peptides and proteins at a molecular level in a way that helps for life identify them in highly complex samples such as the bovine colostrum or chicken egg yolk. This again allows us to safeguard the quality of for life transfer factor products. If we know what's in there, we know what to look for, that allows us to improve and maintain high quality standards for all transfer factor products. So For Life has worked with several well-respected academic institutions in our pursuit of For Life transfer factor science. For Life researchers utilize the expertise and the state-of-the-art instrumentation to separate and identify these small bioactive peptides and proteins that make up For Life transfer factor. Protein databases searches help us identify the known colostrum proteins such as immunoglobulins and to provide clarity into many of the unknown and peptides and proteins. So in this section, you learned that For Life transfer factor is comprised of peptides and proteins from cow colostrum and chicken egg yolk. For Life transfer factor is made by the immune system for the immune system. And it's the immune system of cows and chickens and that helps the immune system of species such as humans. For Life utilizes patented proprietary filtration procedures to extract transfer factors from cow colostrum and chicken egg yolks. Now, to help us better understand what transfer factors are, 4Life scientists use several tools to characterize these bioactive peptides at the molecular level. Even with these cutting-edge tools, there's still so much to learn about 4Life transfer factor. Okay, are we ready for our next question? Let me turn on the chat box, which is the final part of our webinar today, how transfer factor works, how 4Life transfer factor works. So in this part, we will learn about 4Life transfer factor and how it balances the function of the immune system, as opposed to being a simple stimulator of the immune system. There's a lot of products out there that affect the immune system, but they only act as a simple stimulator. We want a product that actually brings balance to our immune system, and we're going to show you some results that will demonstrate that. Now, we will learn that 4Life transfer factor helps your immune system respond to threats by increasing natural killer cell activity and others, and recognize threats by reducing the activity of specific T cells. We'll also learn that 4Life transfer factor acts on the immune memory molecules called immunoglobulins to help the immune system remember those health threats. And lastly, we will learn that these immune benefits start in our gastrointestinal tract. So let's start learning about 4Life transfer factor and how it helps your body respond to threats, as these were the first studies performed by 4Life. 4Life transfer factor helps your immune system respond to threats mainly by increasing the natural killer cells. So remember, these were the cells that actually communicate with our innate and our adaptive immune system. Super, super important communication immune cells. If we imagine that each cell type is a type of person, the natural killer cells are those that actually do the job. They destroy the threats. So let's look at first at a comparison chart of transfer factor classic and transfer factor trifactor formula and transfer factor plus formula. So one of the unique versions of this Malaysia version of transfer factor plus is that besides all these wonderful ingredients that are listed in the chart, it also has a spinach extract. Okay, one of the things that I think is interesting about, as we've talked about all these different immune cells, is you look at these different formulas and they have what we call immune cell coverage. So when we talk about transfer factor trifactor formula, that covers immune cells based on our research, natural killer cells, T cells, and B cells. When we look at the trifactor plus formula, we actually have the same coverage of natural killer cells, T cells, and B cells, as well as macrophages. So each one is a little bit different in its own right. They have different amounts of transfer factor, different serine size. One of them has zinc, the other one doesn't. One thing to pay attention to as well is, in particular, is if you have certain allergies, right? Certain allergies might dictate which type of product you want to take. Okay, so in this newer study, 4Life worked with a company called Reach Biolabs. This is an American research company that specializes in cell biology science. This study consisted of several different phases. Similar to the previous study, a group of healthy adults provided blood samples. The blood samples were prepared to collect the immune cells shown on this slide. These cells were actually incubated for 48 hours, so 2 days, with the damaging cells, with or without transfer factor, 4Life transfer factor. Now again, in this short amount of time and in the presence of damaging cells, natural killer cells were the main players out of this whole group of immune cells. Now the hypothesis for this study was that 4Life transfer factor would increase the activity of natural killer cells by improving the killing capacity of the natural killer cells against the damaged or damaging cells. Now this newer technique that was used in a 2018 study is called flow cytometry. It simply measures the killing of damaging cells over time. So it separates out each cell, it counts it, you can see these little dots here, and that gives us the data. So each dot represents one individual cell. So we have the red dots and we have the green dots. Again, each dot in the graph represents one individual cell. The red dots are the natural killer cells. The damaging cells, or the health threats, are the green dots. So before the treatment of 4Life transfer factor, you can see a lot of the red and the green, but after 48 hours of treatment, you can see that the natural killer cells are moving and spreading while the damaging cells have almost disappeared. This visual helps us show that natural killer cells are killing these damaging cells. This told us that the natural killer cell activity increased quite a bit within 48 hours of using 4Life transfer factor. Now, these studies were done in cells, in human cells, but in cells. In order to look at a whole person benefits, a clinical study was performed. So 30 young adults took one serving of 4-Life Transfer Factor Classic, so all the ultra factor, for daily for 15 or 30 days. This increased number of cytotoxic T cells and natural killer cells with no change in T helper cells. These individuals also reported feeling healthier overall. So in summary, the study found that either one time daily for 15 days or 2 times daily for 30 days of 4-Life Transfer Factor Classic helped the participants maintain their overall health. In summary, we've learned that 4-Life Transfer Factor increases the natural killer cell activity and the number of cytotoxic T cells and natural killer cells. Now let's learn how 4-Life Transfer Factor helps our immune system recognize threats, right? So now we're talking about more of the delayed response, more of the adaptive immune system side of things. So recognition of this threat comes from T cells. If we think of T cells as being people, T cells are a type of people that are in communications. They recognize a situation and they communicate to the environment around them. They recognize if there are problems around them that need to be fixed. They also carry information about what it is the threat and what is not, right? Self, non-self. What needs to be destroyed, what doesn't need to be destroyed. These cells are so important that they have transferred the immunity from the mother to the newborn in the early days of breastfeeding. So educated T cells from the mother is transferred to the newborn through colostrum. This study proves that colostrum contains important molecules that can transfer educated T cells to help the immune system recognize the specific threats. Since 4-Life Transfer Factor from colostrum, 4-Life is expected to see similar effects of T cells in this study. So to study the T cells, 4-Life scientists used an assay called Immuno. In this study, blood samples were collected from healthy individuals who were accustomed to taking 4-Life Transfer Factor products in comparison to those individuals that have never taken a 4-Life Transfer Factor products, and then measured the activity of what we call the helper T cells. So remember, there's 2 types of T cells, and helper T cells are one of those. Now, this assay measures the ability of helper T cells to respond to a non-specific stimulant called PHA. So PHA is a foreign molecule, but not necessarily a threat to the body. So here are the study results. 4-Life scientists found that the activity of helper T cells was overactive in people who had never taken 4-Life Transfer Factor. A slightly lower activity of these T cells was found in people who consumed cow colostrum. And interestingly, in people who were taking 4-Life Transfer Factor trifactor formula and 4-Life Transfer Factor plus trifactor formula, the activity of these T cells were similar to the T cells at rest. So now we're essentially bringing it back into balance. So these results suggest that 4-Life Transfer Factor reduces helper T cell activity when a foreign but a non-harmful molecule is present. 4-Life Transfer Factor educates helper T cells to not react to harmful non-stimulants. Now, it's important to note that this effect is specific to helper T cells. So in summary, we've learned so far that 4-Life Transfer Factor balances the immune response by being an activator of natural killer cells and cytotoxic T cells, and that these immune cells can destroy certain health threats. But in contrast, reducing helper T cell activity when there's no threat present. And again, T cells are those cells that help recognize threats. Thus, 4-Life Transfer Factor helps the immune system recognize threats by affecting the different T cells. So a temporary increase in immune system function is beneficial. However, an overactive immune system is not beneficial to the body. Many immune products in the marketplace are simply stimulators of immune system response. So the ideal product would balance the immune system function to activate it when it's needed and to suppress it when it's not needed. Now, to understand 4-Life Transfer Factor helps the immune system remember threats, studies were performed to look at the effects of 4-Life Transfer Factor on immunoglobulins, right? Remember, the immunoglobulins are coming from the B cells, another term also for antibodies. These are the immune memory markers. So if 4-Life Transfer Factor helps these immunoglobulins, then they, of course, help our immune memory. As we learned earlier, B cells are the cells that make up the immunoglobulins. But just to understand the importance of them, similarly to T cells, these immunoglobulins are transferred to newborns during the early days of breastfeeding and thus present in colostrum. These are too large to be 4-life transfer factor molecules, but 4-life transfer factor molecules can affect them and help them remember certain threats. Now, there are 5 different types of immunoglobulins. There's IgG, there's IgA, IgM, IgD, and IgE. So we studied 4-life transfer factor effects on IgA. So IgA is the main type present in saliva. Saliva samples are much easier to collect from people than blood, and thus it's a more practical way to study transfer factor. Also, IgA is the primary class of immunoglobulins in human colostrum and in breast milk. So we have performed 2 studies. In 2007, 21 healthy adults received 4-life transfer factor formula for 2 weeks, and then 4-life transfer factor Riovita for 2 weeks. In a 2017 study, 13 subjects were given Right Start men or Right Start women for 3 months. IgA was measured in the saliva of the participants every month. Measurements of IgA in the saliva were done before treatment and every month after. Now let's put all together in the study that was done in 2019. It was performed by an independent group of researchers in Taiwan. The researchers studied 4-life transfer factor plus trifactor formula. They replicated the findings of increased natural killer cell activity using this flow cytometry technology. So for the first time, we also studied another type of immune cells, the macrophages, right? Remember, these are the cell eaters. This study showed an increase in the activity of macrophages. So remember that macrophages are the immune cells that destroy these threats. We've also learned about cytokines. These are the molecules that some of the immune cells use to kill the health threats. In this study, the researchers noted an increase in cytokines IL-2 and interferon gamma. They also noticed an increase in the level of immunoglobulin IgG type 2A that was specific to that health threat. This is another piece of data to demonstrate that 4-life transfer factor helps the immune system respond to and remember health threats. Lastly, all of these benefits start in the GI tract. We have learned today that about 70% of our immune system resides in our gut. Now, we hypothesize that the action of the immune molecule transfer factors starts actually in the gut. Published studies indicate that proteins found in colostrum and transfer factors bind to specific immune cell receptors that are present in immune cells in the gut. The binding of these transfer factors to these receptors on the intestines elicits a cascade of specific messages that are sent to immune cells found in the bloodstream. So in this part 3, we learned that 4-life transfer factor helps our immune system respond to threats by stimulating natural killer cells and others, including macrophages and cytokines. We also learned that transfer factor helps the immune system recognize threats by affecting T cells, increasing cytotoxic T cells, and teaching helper T cells to calm down when there's no threat that is present. We also learned that 4-life transfer factor helps the immune system remember threats by stimulating the production of immune memory markers called the immunoglobulins. And these immune benefits of 4-life transfer factor also start in our gut. Now, before we conclude, let us imagine that 4-life transfer factor is like our mentors or our teachers in life. Have you had teachers or mentors in your life? Those individuals who have helped you face challenges and provided you guidance to succeed. I can think of a few individuals that have provided me important education and knowledge that help me succeed in life and in my work. Now let's imagine that 4-life transfer factor is the mentor or teacher that provides education and guidance to the immune cells on how to better recognize, respond to, and remember threats, and thus become a successful immune system. Okay, so now we're on to our last question. Okay. It's quite a lot, right, everybody? Lots of information. So perhaps we can focus on a few key points in each of the 3 parts. In part 1, we learned that the immune system is everywhere in our body and that it's there to protect us from potential health threats. In part 2, we learned that 4-life transfer factor has proprietary methods to extract transfer factor from cow colostrum and from chicken egg yolk, and that it's comprised of small bioactive peptides and proteins. And in part 3, we learned that 4-Life Transfer Factor educates the immune system to recognize, to respond, and to remember potential health threats. So congratulations for completing this webinar with us today. I hope you've learned something important, not only for you, but to raise your immune IQ, but also share the knowledge of the immune system and transfer factor with other people. I think we now have a question and answer session right after, and so I look forward to hearing your questions and exchanging ideas with all of you.
Hospitals in Johor and joined group practice of 7 polyclinics in Johor. He joined 4-Life in 2005. It's more than 15 years. And in 2009, he quit medical practice and concentrated full-time in 4-Life research until now. All right, so now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Sunny.
All right.
Dr. Sunny, share something with us.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, 4-Life. Good morning, Salt Lake City. Good morning, Dr. Vollmer. So, what we're going to say for 2 minutes with the 25 clinical experience. What can I say? Because we cannot talk about disease, we cannot say much. But what I can say is my experience with 4-Life is a change. It's a change of my view of seeing medicine itself. It changed my perspective of preventive medicine, and now I'm going for more to wellness. And what I can say is like I'm retiring from almost 95% of my practicing career now. So now I'm with 4-Life full time, but sometimes it's just sometimes it's not really full time, because of our residual income. So I'm enjoying my life, enjoying my healthy life. Yeah, because previously we have also encountered so much of medical condition as well. So we are finding for a new cure, of a new health status, and we have tried for about 16 years plus. And we found this is it. Yeah, this is what we're looking for. This is what we're going to share to the whole world. And then luckily we found that this such a holistic company. 4-Life is a holistic company. We're talking about not just immune system, but how to boost immune system holistically, not just giving transfer factor, but good nutrition. How to detox, how to make your liver healthy, that's key, and how to make your gut helping you in so many ways of immune system. That's it. It's not just transfer factor, but it's a holistic way of achieving not peak but optimal immune system for your daily stress or your daily we call it threat from the this condition right now, which is we understand the pandemic now, and in the future we will foresee.
Medical doctor. He serviced in Penang General Hospital and clinics. He joined 4-Life in 2014 after having known the benefits of transfer factor. He quit medical practice in 2016 and concentrate full-time in 4-Life research until now. Let's welcome Dr. Chia. Dr. Chia?
Hi.
Yes.
Hi, I'm here. Thank you
Yeah,
for having me here and allowing me to share. Okay, first of all, throughout my medical years and as a medical student and practices, I've never come across a transfer factor. Well, to my surprise, why is that so? Because it is already listed inside PDR since 2003, if not mistaken. So, well, to begin with, it started back 7 years ago when my daughter had hyperactive immune system. So that's how I came across transfer factor. So now she is well. She's maintaining very well. Okay. And after that, I started to study and got really interested in transfer factor. And with the help of my mentors like Dr. Tamil, Dr. Tam, Dr. Uy, I managed to really fall in love with transfer factor because I started to help my own self and my own family members to really maintain our health without any medication. So I was thinking, such amazing thing. Why wouldn't more medical practitioners and more people get to know about it? So that's when I started to share. And after years and years of sharing, I finally got myself fully into For Life. And now I'm very thankful because I have such a wonderful science and this, what do you call that, transfer factor to back me up, and also such a wonderful team, For Life team, to allow me to support my business as well as a part-time and then full-time right now. So besides that, I think this is something which really amazed me. Is it is the only natural ingredient which can actually educate our own immune system to achieve balance, which no any other products can achieve this. Not even medication. So this is what I discovered. So I believe this will make a real big breakthrough. Okay, no matter whether it is in the pandemic season or what, I believe transfer factor will be well known and will be in everyone's house one day. So this is my belief, and I'm willing to walk this journey together with all these medical professionals and with everyone and with For Life. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thanks for giving me the opportunity. Okay, like as the time is very short, I'm going to share some experience what I got it from my patients because like very often like I used to see that when some of my patients who come to see me often, their stress level is very high. So some are doing business, some are working, even like everyone we go through a lot of stress in our day-to-day life. So one thing what we have to know about is stress. If the stress level is very high, this will make your immune system weak. So that is why, like as I said, mostly like people having more stress, they come and meet me in the clinic often. So like what I have done is I have added transfer factor to them. So it also made me affected that they are coming to the clinic decreases. So it shows they are very healthy. So the transfer factor made their immune system strong. So like when you're stressed, every day we have stress in day-to-day life. So when you have stress, by taking transfer factor, this will keep your immune system balanced and also strong. So you can stay healthy. And one more thing is, like you can imagine yourself, if you're very stressful, your energy level will be very less. You get fatigue very often. So by taking transfer factor, the stamina and energy is very good. And mostly in geriatric patients, like geriatric person, that means like people above the age group of 60, 65 years, their immune system will be very weak. When they take transfer factor, it helps in boosting their immune system. So their health will be very good and also they will be very energetic. And one more thing, this is from my personal experience. I felt I have given to many pregnant and newborn babies transfer factor is very, very safe because like I'm giving on my day-to-day life to almost like many pregnant women, newborn babies. Transfer factor is purely safe as it's a dietary supplement with no toxic effects. We can give it with full confidence. And I always say one thing, understand the transfer factor benefits, you get full knowledge, believe in the supplement. You have to believe and take it regularly, minimum for 3 to 6 months. Because if you're taking for 1 week and say, oh, I'm not saying much difference, of course, you cannot see much difference because we will going through health hazards for almost like months and years. So if you start on transfer factor, take it for a minimum of 3 to 6 months, then you will see the difference. So once you see the difference, you won't stop taking it and you will start sharing to many people. So that's why everyone is doing it. So sharing is caring. Take the supplement, see the benefit, share as much as can to many people and help them to stay a healthy life. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prakash.
Further 18.4 years and 21.2 years respectively. Thus, males aged 60 years are expected to live the age of 78.4 years old, and for the females to reach the age of 81.2 years old. Generally, increased life expectancy has increased the risk of disease, disability, and advanced aging prior to death. So now, as we live longer, we also aim to live healthier, can manage our everyday life without having to spend the extra years on a medical bed. With that, as a community pharmacist, I strongly encourage the use of transfer factor for every household to achieve an optimal immune health for each and everyone in the family. In my practice as a pharmacist, my goal is to help the patient to reduce long-term medical costs, to reduce morbidity and hospitalization, and to improve patients' quality of life, to live longer and happier. Given a choice, I myself would prefer to consume transfer factor supplements daily for better immune health, rather than to take medicine to treat the disease. Remember this, prevention is always better than cure. With transfer factor supplementation, I've seen many cases whereby our patients' general well-being is improved with less medicine use. They are also to promote natural healing. Moreover, my patients love taking transfer factor and has higher compliance for transfer factor supplements as it has no side effects towards their body. The kids love the transfer factor range too. Well, if you're looking for a modern day immune system supplementation, transfer factors should be your number one immune system product. Back to you, my beautiful host. Thank you.